Okay, it says we are now live on YouTube. Session 0, The Lost Colonies, a Rogue Trader campaign. So we've just introduced ourselves to each other. So I'm just going to run my pitch. We'll do a quick Q&A, and then we'll start throwing ideas around. And then we'll move into shipbuilding, dynasty building. So my pitch, this is going to be kind of the Rogue Trader Lite, the mini sandbox, where we're going to have about 6 different factions spread out across the sector. Each one has things they want you to do, things they don't want you to do. Each faction probably has another faction they don't like. And at the beginning, we're going to do it Harvest Moon style. You've inherited the farm. It's a shambles. There's weeds everywhere. The cows are dying. And we have to clean up this dynasty. So basically, our political relations with everyone is not good. So we're going to have to move through and try to make allies. Along the way, we will probably make enemies as well. Hopefully, we can make more allies than enemies. And that's like the basic what we're going to be doing. A lot of politicking. Everybody's need of us, will probably lead us into combat at some point as well. So there will be certainly combat involved, a lot of traveling. And along the way, we will, of course, have one kind of main plot, which we can stumble into at any moment. Perhaps it'll be the first thing we find. Perhaps it will be the last thing. But we'll have kind of a main plot, and when that is concluded, then that's when we will know that the campaign is wrapped up. So it could take anywhere from 5 sessions right up to like 10, 15 maybe, probably in the 7 to 13 range. But that's kind of my basic pitch. It's a little sandbox, lots of factions. We'll decide where we want to go, or our good captain will decide where we want to go, what we want to do. It will not involve aliens, so everybody's going to be from the Empire. As long as we're able to play this political game, the Game of Thrones in space, as long as your character can do that, or can stand by while others do that, be his muscle, his bodyguard, the expert with knowledge, and then step in and combat, whatever you think is fun in that milieu, that's all we need to do. And so with that being said, do you guys have any specific questions before we start moving character concepts around?
A couple of those that pitch brings up for me.
Sure.
Like I said, I'm new to this system, and I was reading over some of the different choices in character creation, and a lot of different things seem to have like hatred of certain alien race or whatever. Are we going to substitute that with factions, or are we still going to, like, if we have a hatred of orcs, we have a hatred of orcs, we're just not going to run into them in this campaign? Or
yeah,
how would you handle that?
I'll definitely tell you that we're not going to run into any aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So if your character hates aliens, that's you're not going to get to confront that hatred directly. So definitely keep that in mind when you're making your character. Now it could be that you might run into someone who has some orky tech, or who has run into the orcs. You won't be interacting with the orcs directly, but we could get indirect heat out of that angle.
Okay.
But in general, I'd probably recommend against making a character who's big on aliens.
I was just like, there's several like the starting worlds or starting career paths that wind up giving you a hatred of insert race here or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it just made me, with the pitch, it kind of made me wondering about those concepts.
Oh, absolutely. Now
I guess it could also create opportunities. Like if one of us has a hatred of orcs and we run into like someone we need to deal with, and we find out he has a hatred of orcs, and it could actually open a door.
Yeah. I really just have like the core book. So in that, I know usually when it has those hatreds, it'll usually have some alien options, but it might have human options. You might hate the ecclesiarchy, the priesthood. You might hate the mechanicus, which is kind of the other priesthood that's a little sketchier but makes a little more sense. You might hate pirates, the navy. noble, a noble house, the navigators, and we
Okay.
can work all these human factions in very easily.
Right.
Several of your pitches have already included other factions and your character's relationship with that faction, and which I love to see because it saves me some work as well. Because you guys can certainly design some of that and say, "Oh, I hate the priesthood because the priesthood confiscated my home world and said, oh, it's not going to be a farming planet. Now it's a shrine world." And they tore up all our farms and they shipped us off, or they made us wear horsehair robes and turned us into missionaries. So fuck the ecclesiarchy. You can certainly supply reasons, and I can just throw that right into the setting.
So I have a very important question, because I know that you're a tinkerer, regardless of what you say. I would like to know how your 40K setting is different than, which it certainly will be, how it will be different than the core 40K, like typical 40K setting.
Sure. Well, I want to keep it as close to the books and the lore as possible. Like the only thing that obviously stands out to me is that I would probably have a little bit more proficiency with technology for your average person than some of the source books describe. Certainly the mechanic has the most, but I want to try to keep it as close to like real sci-fi as possible rather than science fantasy. It'll still probably be on that science fantasy on the other side of that line, but I'm going to try to keep it as close as possible. You can just yell at me if I'm doing anything that's incorrect, and we'll work our way through it.
Just maybe not like right in the middle while you're describing it, but.
That's the best time to interrupt me. Because if I describe the whole thing and then you're like, no, I was against canon. Because you can always educate me about the canon. And worst case scenario, we take a 5-minute break, and I come back and either veto it, which I'll try not to do, or we can move forward and stay closer to canon. But I have no problem taking a little break and having a good think if I need to. But I'm usually pretty good at improvising as well.
Any system differences then? Like things you're homebrewing out or things you don't want regarding the system?
Let's get through the rest of the Q&A, and then we'll make some decisions together about whether we want the classes or whether we want to turn it into a skill base, about whether we want to use the ship points or whether we just want to do something a little more freeform. Let's finish the Q&A, and we'll make a couple of these decisions as a group together.
Cool.
So were there any other questions about kind of the story setting aspect?
No, pretty straightforward.
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if it was on the Facebook group or in one of the parts of the book that I read. It showed like a list of ships' positions that typical groups try to fill.
I posted some recommendations, certainly.
Okay. All right. I was just trying to remember that. I was thinking it might be useful to have that available so that as people are throwing their hats.
There's in Into the Storm, they have like basically a list of various different like positions that you would find on any given ship. And it might be kind of helpful for people to kind of see that in case they want to.
Do you happen to have the page number?
In Into the Storm, it's on page, starting on page 225. I can probably, let me see if I can post it to the chat. Just a basic.
Well, like what I was thinking about doing if I had something like that is rather than showing my camera with my face, having a share screen with an Excel sheet of all of our names, and then like as people fill out, I'm going to do this or that. That way we can reference it and like with the intersections and stuff. I mean, if y'all want, or someone else can do that, whatever the case may be.
I don't think we need it to be that structured. I'm going to take my own notes, but in general, I'd recommend like the most fun character for you is the best character for you. So if Greg wants to be the astropath, but Mike also wants to be the astropath, maybe we have two astropaths. Maybe one's the mentor, one's the student. Maybe they're rivals, but they're forming an astropathic choir. Whatever your A game is, what you want the most, go for that, and we'll try to make it work with everybody else. Because I don't care, if we don't have a navigator, I don't care. I'll have an NPC navigator. He'll have his own plot points and schemes and such, and I'll just play him. He'll be a more minor character, but that's fine. If you guys are doing what you want to do, that's way better.
I just thought it would be kind of helpful to have the roles listed, just so like someone might come up with something like interesting. Like for example, like there's some more obscure roles that might be interesting to have characters in, like the helmsman or the steward or the bosun. Definitely at least gonna want a NPC bosun, getting those crew members riled up. Gotta do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you could definitely list those, just the generic titles or whatever, that'd be awesome. Just to kind of get my imagination going.
Okay. Do you want to throw those up, Andrew?
It's going to take just a little bit of time, just because I'm copying and pasting, but I will do that.
Yeah, take your. Basically, it's a lot like Star Trek. I always think about the bridge. So you got the captain, you got the helmsman, the navigator. You've got your chief engineer, your weapons officer. You've got your ship's surgeon. It's very important. We don't have a counselor. We look to the emperor for counsel, the god emperor of man. So we have a ship's chaplain instead, who might be like some kind of bishop, archbishop, very powerful politically. Would this individual be? And there are a lot of certain other positions as well, but that's always like my go-to. So were there any more general questions? If not, we can move into just talking about characters.
Can I have a servitor?
Yes. I mean, we're all going to be like rich, powerful individuals with political sway. If you're the gunnery chief, I mean, you've got a crew of like 100 gunners working under you. If you're the starfighter pilot, wing commander, we might have also like 100 starfighter pilots and their ships that you're sending out. If you're the chief engineer, you're going to have all these junior engineers and servitors, which are like cyborg zombies. They're kind of the Warhammer version of robots. So yeah, you'll have a ton of those battle servitors, regular models. We're going to be like rich, powerful, opulent characters. That's definitely what I want everyone to strive for.
Almost.
One last.
Mhm.
One last question. How much should we tell the other players about our character? Because my character has a few secrets that are pretty vital to him.
Yeah, I always recommend
vital to his character creation. So.
Yeah, I always recommend don't tell anybody anything their character wouldn't know. That's my style. That's my like golden rule. You don't have to adhere to that, but I think it's probably going to be more fun for you, and probably for everybody if you do keep some secrets. Now this whole session is just to get everybody on the same page, and probably do like the ship creation and lay down a couple of like mechanical rules and such. But I mean, it sounds like we're all kind of on the same page at this point, so we can throw around ideas. Unless there's any more general questions first.
Well, I've actually always kind of wondered, on a rogue trader vessel, how well would we actually know the other crewmates?
Well, you guys, as like the bridge crew, the officers, you should all be very aware of each other. Like the officers would all eat together every day in the officers' mess. And you'd be seeing each other on the bridge quite often. You'd have to deal with each other's departments to some degree as well. So I think you'd all know each other very, very well. It doesn't mean you might all not like each other very well. But like if you're the astropath, Greg, you might get a message that's supposed to go to Micah. You know, she's the ship's chaplain, so she's going to be receiving dictates from an archbishop or a cardinal somewhere. But you, as the astropath, can say, "Oh, I see she's been ordered to meet up with the black ships and take off all of our psychers. Well, I kind of like the psychers though, because I can train them into astropaths maybe, or maybe I can get a chaos cult going on somewhere. So I'm just not going to pass that message along."
It just didn't get through the warp, It just didn't travel well.
Or you could intentionally distort the message and say, "Oh, you wanted to meet over here? I thought you wanted to meet over here." And you're just, "Oh, I was in the wrong place, I guess. Oh, well." So even if you're not interacting with each other, you can fuck with each other. Your decisions will impact the whole ship. The navigator, his decisions about how to fly the ship could impact everybody. The chief engineer, air quality is important, speed, shields, these things are all important for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Water quality, I mean, if the chief engineer is not taking care of the ship's plumbing, everyone will be upset. And maybe that's his way of saying, you need to respect me, or else you'll be showering in horrible gray sludge. So you better give me the respect as the chief engineer, because I'll fuck up your whole day every day until you do.
Can everyone see the list in the chat? I know it's horrible font, it's horrible formatting, but that was kind of what I got. They kind of change up some of the names. I mean, obviously, like the chief engineer is usually the Engineer Prime, but most of them are fairly self-explanatory.
Oh, there we are. Okay.
Chief Chirurgeon is like the surgeon.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a surgeon and a chirurgeon?
It's the term they use.
Yeah, it's just the old way of spelling it mainly.
Okay.
It's like a jail and a gale. It's really just the spelling,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm on phone, so I cannot see chat.
That's okay.
Well, I can just go down the list if you want, just to give you guys some ideas. So we have the Lord Captain, which of course is me. We have the First Officer, the Engineer Prime, the High Factorum, who is like in charge of the engines, which is of course very important.
I believe that's the High Factotum, who is
Factotum.
in charge of the accounts, my dear boy. The accounts that
did I
must
get
be
it wrong?
paid. A Factotum.
The purser is the guy who's in charge of the accounts.
Yeah, the factotum is in charge of negotiations.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
The purser is
it's
the accountant. The
drive master.
factotum is the.
I say that because
one
I
who
want to be the
negotiates.
accountant, because I feel like that would be good cover for my character.
You want to be the purser.
Yeah.
We have the Master at Arms, the Master Helmsman, the Master of Ordnance, which is the gunner, the main gunner, Chief Chirurgeon, the Master of Whispers, the Choir Master of Telepathica, which is obviously the astropath, the Warp Guide, which is the navigator, the Ship's Confessor, obviously our good priest, the Drive Master, the Chief Bosun, the Master of the Box, which is like the communication officer, the Purser, and the Ship's Steward.
Is the purser like the treasurer kind of person? Or?
Yeah, I think more specifically the purser has to do with paying the crew.
Okay.
So,
It says the purser endeavors requires uncountable amounts of wealth to be shuffled between investments and expenses on a daily basis, and the risk of loss is great. Financial officers must be prepared to balance enough books to fill a librarium many times over in an economic climate where the single stroke of an autoquill can mean the difference between tragic loss and phenomenal gain.
Yep.
The purser also has a second duty to ration payment and rewards to the crew serving aboard the ship. This often means the purser is loved and hated in turn based on how forthcoming the crew's pay is. The purser has to be the seneschal career, it says.
That is what I was planning on doing.
I will be
benefit
sure
is
to
this-
blame you for all ills on the ship.
I can assure you that everything will run perfectly, without any hiccups whatsoever.
All right. So I think if we're talking character creation, the first thing is to provide like the context, and that kind of comes back to our dynasty and our captain to some degree. So again, my thought was we're going to start out with very few political allies. So Andrew, why do you think that is? Is it because we've spent a lot of investment in industry and we're rich but we have no friends, or is it that we had a disaster and that has caused everyone to turn against us? What do you think? How did our dynasty make all these enemies, or do we still have some allies remaining?
So this was kind of my idea. I'll kind of throw the pitch out to you guys, and you can kind of decide what you think of it. Feel free to throw back feedback at me. I'm always willing and open for that. I'm not sure how we're going to start by knowing each other. We'll discuss that later. But this is the basic synopsis. So the idea is it is the Loretti dynasty is the name of our dynasty. I'll give you a spelling on that. But the Loretti dynasty is a very new dynasty, all things considered. Like, in the Imperium, there's dynasties that go back thousands of years. This is not such a dynasty. This dynasty is only about 30 to 40 years old, starting with my father, Lucius Loretti, the first of his name. He was originally a captain of a starship in the Navy, in the Imperial Navy, and he was kind of a controversial figure because he was very proficient at his job. However, he did a lot of stuff on the side. We'll just say he did some stuff that maybe was not all completely kosher with the Navy. For example, he got up to basically committing acts of piracy in the name of different factions. So he'd play factions against each other, but he wasn't competent enough to really do that successfully. So he received a letter of marque, which basically allowed him legally to commit acts of piracy. However, the Navy wasn't really okay with this, using ship resources, using a ship to fight against other factions, to take plunder and booty, from loyal Imperial subjects. Not really all that great of a thing. However, before the Navy could really come down on him, he received conveniently a warrant of trade from one such faction, basically making all of his previous actions legal in retrospect. However, as time went on, he sort of, he did so much of this playing factions against each other. By the end, most factions hated him because he was, he would go to one faction and raid another faction's cargo, and then he would switch sides and do the same thing. So he made a lot of enemies, but I was thinking that probably his strongest connection was with the Navy, since he was from one of the naval families, aboard one of these ships. So although he's definitely controversial and he's a dishonorable individual, especially for Navy standards, he still had some amount of clout with the Navy, at least for his competence as a starship captain. So that was kind of my idea. You guys can kind of,
Well, let me ask a question, Andrew. So I did look at the profit factor versus ship point system. And that basically says the richer your dynasty is, the crappier your spaceship is. It's a game mechanic. It's for balance.
Mhm.
But it's kind of a nice system, and the poorer your dynasty is, the nicer your ship is. So it sounds to me like we would have a poor dynasty, but a really nice ship, like an
Yeah.
enormous cruiser with a bunch
The
of lance batteries and.
the way it could go that way. The way I was kind of thinking about it is that basically the ship that we would be using was, well, I had a couple, depending on the way that we want to kind of go with this. We could either have it as this was a newly acquired vessel from pirates that he stole from pirates, so it's an old pirate vessel. um, so that was one. We could do it that way, like a raiding privateer vessel.
Mhm.
Or the other side is it could be his old command, his old Navy command that was bequested to him by the Navy. If that was the case, it would probably either be a light cruiser or a frigate or like a heavy frigate.
Mhm.
Um,
Now, the bigger and badder your ship is, the more you can bully people. Basically, if you
mhm,
got a small, fast, light ship, that's really good for certain things like smuggling, running away, delivering messages.
mhm.
But if you have this big, beefy ship, you might not be very fast and agile and stealthy, but you could fight off a small fleet by yourself. You could,
Right.
devastate a planet with ordnance.
Well,
So
one
I
thing
think this is
I'm gonna throw into the conversation there is that because at least half of the players in the group indicated they want to be more social aspected, I think we need to go medium size or smaller
Mhm.
be
I agree.
because the larger size one sounds more militant or more mining operated or something like that. Doesn't sound like the types of leadership that we indicated we wanted in the group. Or
Yeah,
as far
and
as
it should
people.
definitely be a group decision, I think. So
Mhm.
does,
Well,
does anybody else have any kind of preference?
to counter that point, I would like to say that in this universe, typically negotiation is done at the end of a gunpoint.
It
Yes.
can be. It doesn't
So
have to be.
Well, I'm not
it
saying
doesn't have to be,
that
but
the militant stuff
typically
won't have
it
a
is
place,
like
but
negotiation through superior firepower. That's how the Rogue Trader core book kind of paints it.
Yeah, I would agree. I kind of want a big, powerful ship. Speak softly, carry a large stick. I want to have a big, powerful vessel so that if we do wind up running into enemies, maybe we can scare them off with the guns, because we're probably not going to be able to outshoot them if we get boarded.
I
Okay,
propose
so
that we get something between light and medium size, and we just make it very, very powerful for its size.
I like that.
So here's the idea I had. If we're kind of going with that, um, it's not in the core book. It's in Battlefleet Kronos. There is a ship called the Turbulent Class Heavy Frigate, which is probably one of the largest like frigate-sized vessels. So it's kind of halfway between being a very agile ship um, and not quite being a light cruiser with heavy batteries. Um, but the downside of this vessel is that it's considered a very old and outdated class that is basically been relegated mostly to the scrap yards, to the breaking yards. But some captains have quite a fondness for this vessel. So the advantage of it is that the plasma drives tend to burn hotter, so there's more power on the vessel. The disadvantage is that the communications are antiquated. They basically they use I'm just imagining they're using like the old-fashioned like speaking horns through tubes, and the lights are old-fashioned electric burning lights. So that was kind of my idea.
I like the sound of that.
So like it would have originally have been built a long, long time ago. It's probably a very old vessel, but it's also probably a piece of crap. Like in general, it's probably in pretty rough shape. So.
So are you one of like?
It sounds like the Serenity from Firefly, actually.
Except
Much bigger,
Yeah.
though.
What did you
Yeah.
think, Kyle and Russ? I'm not sure. Did you guys say you had a preference?
Um, I kind of like the bigger ships. The idea of having something like a massive floating city, where if we broadside something, it's like like the book says, city destroying power. But I also like the idea of having a ship with kind of like that older, character to it. Like you said, the Firefly ship. It just, I don't know, it brings a lot more story element into it. I don't know. I could go either way, to be honest. Honestly, I guess I would go with like the older ship. This sounds pretty cool, and I guess it also depends on which one his father would have inherited, right? Like, is he gonna get the Navy command ship, or is he gonna go the like he took over a pirate
Yeah.
ship?
It can always be that maybe his father, who's been removed from the story, maybe he was removed along with his whole ship. Maybe there was a disaster. So just because we end up with one ship doesn't mean that was the father's ship necessarily. Although it could be.
Here's another idea I had. So the other kind of I had a lot of ideas bouncing around my head, but another one I had was that my father commanded a Q ship, and if you don't know what a Q ship is basically a military vessel that is disguised as a commerce vessel. So basically, its job is it plies the space lanes, and when a pirate ship comes in close, you act like, oh no, you got us, we surrender, and they come in close, and that's when you open the broadsides get brought out. They get the panels that are disguising the guns pop out, and basically you open up like at close range and blow them apart.
I really like that.
Yeah.
That's an awesome idea.
Now the thing with that vessel is the one that they have in Into the Storm is a very small. The Loki class Q ship is a very small vessel. So the way we could do it instead is if you wanted to still have like a larger ship, because I know that there's some talk of a larger ship, we could find another commerce-like vessel and give it the wolf in sheep's clothing history, which basically allows us to it allows our vessel to pass as less heavily armed by sensors than it normally would. So we could take like a star galleon or something that maybe looks. Now the disadvantage, of course, of such a vessel is that although it may be heavily armed, it's slow as hell, because you can't ultimately change the fact that it's a commerce vessel. Like, this was built originally, for that role. So it's going to be slow. It's going to be clunky. It's going to have probably still quite a lot of cargo space. But the advantage, though, is you're trying to catch vessels by surprise is basically the goal. Because if it comes to a chase, you're basically still in a merchant hull.
I like the idea of having, something a little bit bigger and slower is totally fine. The only problem is, I think the idea of getting a ship that looks less intimidating than it actually is going to make it a lot harder to handle negotiations with people. If we're going to threaten them and say, we're going to blow you out of space, it might look nice if we're not, we don't have like a big Pepsi logo on the side of us that look like a van.
Yeah, it's like going into a bar and like, I've got my one friend who's Chris, and he's short, but he's incredibly dangerous, but he doesn't look dangerous. And then I've got my other friend, Ignatovic, and he's huge. He looks scary as hell, but he can fight his way out of a paper bag. And when I'm out with Ignatovic, I never get in trouble. He doesn't have to fight because he looks like he can fight. When I'm out with Chris, I get in a lot of trouble because Chris doesn't look like he can fight, but he acts like he can fight, and then he gets in a fight and he beats somebody up real bad, and then we've got to run away.
Yeah, 'cause
So-
I think that the commercial look is great if we want to win fights, but I want to not be in fights.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather our ship look impressive than be impressive. So I think that Andrew's idea for the commerce appearance is more efficient, more tactical, but I'd rather have something that's outright scary looking, even if it's not as tough as it looks.
So I have a bit of a request.
Mhm.
In the Rogue Trader core rulebook, on page 198 and 199, there are two tables: Machine Spirit Oddities and Past Histories.
Mhm.
And I have the preference of rolling randomly for them, or having our GM roll randomly for them. I think that
I'm
would
down.
perhaps give us a bit of
Danger.
well, it'd give us a bit of
I
a
like that
foundation to base our ship on.
Counter
And
argument.
ultimately, placing our hands in the fate of the God Emperor, which, as your ship's chaplain, I fully support.
I'm in favor of that.
I have a counter proposal. So we do that. However, I use the if indeed we are going with the former military vessel. The idea I have is that in the book Into the Storm, you can actually use ship points to buy an additional history, I believe. Going for is the former naval vessel.
What book is this?
Into the Storm.
Oh, I already had that one up.
Let me, if you.
While you're looking that up, I'll just mention for anyone unfamiliar, there's like 4 or 5 classes of ship, and they get progressively bigger and heavier and beefier. I believe it starts with Corvette, and then Raider, then Frigate, and then it goes up into Cruiser. And there might be a heavy frigate and a light cruiser in there as well.
Into the Storm, I think there's transports, then raiders, then frigates, then light cruisers, then cruisers. Those are the 5 that are in that book.
Yeah, and transports are basically, they're kind of their own category. They're not warships. They might be way bigger than a cruiser, but they don't have any armor or weapons, or not a comparable amount. So they're kind of a little bit different, but that is an option as well. I mean, we could certainly just be a transport.
Yeah. So.
But just so everybody kind of knows what he means when he suggested a heavy frigate earlier, that's kind of top of the bottom of the top weight class.
Yeah. I think the cruiser. I mean, they're warships and whatnot, and I think with what we've described, with not being part of the military, I think that's just too big of a ship.
Yeah, that's
too military. I kind of like the idea of the frigate size, looking at several of those like that, because it's basically middle of the table. I mean, that's kind of what we sound like. So we want some speed, we want some maneuverability, but we also want to have enough firepower to scare away the Raider class, basically, which sounds like frigate of some variety is what we're talking about.
Yeah, some kind of frigate.
That's what it sounds like. Does anyone have any strong objection to being in that kind of frigate class?
I like frigates.
No, that's.
Yep. So for those of you at home who are reading your Into the Storm, on page 155 or 154, there is a ship background package called Vessel of the Fleet. So basically it means that this ship was originally part of the Navy, and it gets some bonuses with, when you encounter other naval vessels, they have a better They have a better, basically, opinion of you. Command tests are better because the crew is probably is used to serving in the Navy, that kind of thing. So
now, if we're talking ship points, that goes back to that chart on page 33 of the core, which is the profit factor versus ship points. So the more money that we have in the bank, the crappier our ship is. So it goes all the way from 60-30, all the way back, 50-40, 40-50, 30-60, 20-70, which would be $20 in the bank, 70 points into her ship. It's the maximum ship, and the opposite, as I said, is 60 in the bank, 30 in the ship. So what do you guys think about that? Should we go close to 50-50, or lean towards the ship, or lean towards money in the bank?
I'd rather have a nice ship, because if we have a nice ship, we can live long enough to make more money.
Ditto.
So I'm thinking, just because like I have my eye very heavily on the turbulent class heavy frigate. I would like to have at least 42 ship points, if possible.
Maybe milk.
If
40 is very easy to achieve.
Yeah.
The first two are 60-30 ship points, and then 50-40 ship points. So I mean, it's very easy.
As someone new to the system, obviously the ship points are let us buy our ship and upgrade our ship. But what does the other number let us do?
So your profit factor, it is like your money in the bank. Now this money in our dynasty is kind of represented by land, by owning planets, by owning mines, companies, factories. It's all most of it's tied up in some kind of capital, but basically this allows us to expend that in mercantile efforts for bribery, to buy other things, all kinds of stuff like that.
Okay, then I say we don't want to be broke on that. I mean,
Yeah, that
sounds
sounds useful.
So I would say like a 50-30 split, 50-40 split?
It sounds like either the 40 profit factor to 50 ship points, or the 30 profit factor to 60 ship points. And it says, for example, the first one is the dynasty is fresh, new players on the galactic stage, garnering attention, both fair and foul. So that's 40-50. The other one is 30-60, and that says a dynasty whose power is on the wane, but may yet recover because of their strong navy, basically. So which of those two sounds best?
I kind of like 30-60 and have maybe 60 ship points. Was that how that broke down?
That sounds fun to me.
Yeah, I agree with that one. It's just I don't see this dynasty having a lot of just tied up money, especially as he is. My father was more of the piratical murder hobo kind of style guy. I don't see him having a huge amount of monetary funds necessarily tied up. But 60-30, I agree. I think that's a good amount.
Okay.
Yeah, 60-30 sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got 30-60, and we said a frigate. And that ship you were pitching, Andrew, that's a frigate, correct?
What book or page is it?
So you guys, if you don't have the book Battlefleet Colonies, if you type into Google turbulent class heavy frigate, you'll get a description of it. For those who actually have the book, it is on page 27.
I just shared a link with y'all for those who are interested.
Yes.
Okay. And the ones in the core book has a sword frigate, which is the most generic of frigates, and the Tempest, which is a strike frigate. It's got heavy weapons but low armor.
Yeah, I was reading the Tempest. The downside to it, because someone already said that they didn't want to deal with boarding, it is meant to board someone else. That's what it's built to do.
I'm not big on boarding. I don't think most of us are combat characters.
I would say we probably, if we go with the core book, it's the strike frigate, but what page was that one in the Kronos book?
27. So I can, if you want, I can give a brief sort of description of it. It was intended to drive ahead of the main fleet, engaging rival scout units. It was characterized by aggressive, piratical-like activities against the Emperor's foe. It's a rarer class just because it's being scrapped for the most part for more modern vessels. But a lot of old armchair, a lot of older admirals still have a lot of fondness for the vessel. As I said kind of before, it's a bit slower than your average frigate, just because it's more heavy on the armor, more heavy on the guns. But yeah, it has a crew of 25,000 approximately. It's about 2 kilometers long. So.
It sounds like a nice ship to me.
Oh yeah, and they describe what they say is that it has an inefficient energy weapon transfer system, and it has an antiquated internal communication network of brass vacuum pipes and electric lights. I just love that. It's just such a great description.
I like it. It's got character, is what it's got.
Yeah.
It's a piece of shit, but it's our piece of shit.
And it fits the description of us being part of a group that is on the decline but can still bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
So it
does,
fits that story as well.
Okay. So it sounds like we've got our hull. So how many ship points does that cost for that hull, Andrew?
It costs 42.
Oh, so that's 42 out of our 60. It's just spent on the hull there, which is fine. So we got 18 left. Now, one thing that I had noticed is our crew starts with a baseline of basically 30 skill. So anytime that a crewman needs to make a test, he's rolling against 30% chance. And you can spend, I believe it's 5 ship points to make your entire crew more competent. I believe it's 5 points to bump them up to 40% chance. To me, that
40% chance of what? Sorry, you cut out briefly.
40% with pretty much anything. It's just the generic training and experience of our crew.
Oh, okay.
And to me, that sounded like a potentially excellent investment.
So
Yeah, I mean,
you can, of course, have an incompetent crew and get points back, so the ship's nicer, but the crew are
Yeah, I definitely don't want to go that way.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of having an incompetent everyone.
Whether or not it needs to be approved is debatable, depending on what else we can do with the points. But I definitely don't want to go down.
yeah, that's more like the press-ganged crew, the ones we hit over the head and drag into the ship. So an alternative idea, if we don't want to improve necessarily the base skill, we can at least make them more apt to follow our orders. However, again, with that vessel of the fleet background, that if we went with that, we wouldn't be able to roll randomly for our background. So that is the one disadvantage.
Was there something you said we could pay to get a second background on the ship?
I looked at the rules, and apparently you can only have one background. So if we would have to pay 2 ship points to have this advantage, this vessel of the fleet. But as I said, it gives us good reputation, Imperial Navy. Any crew members who make command tests gain a +10 on this ship. If the ship is crippled, the captain can make a challenging command test, and if it is successful, we ignore the effects of being crippled for the next turn. So that's an option. We don't have to go with it. It's just an idea.
I'm kind of either way on that one. It doesn't sound bad, doesn't sound, like it must have. So I'd leave that to somebody who's more impassioned regarding the ship's background.
The
I still want to
background
roll
has-
randomly for it.
Yeah, I do like random rolls, but some of these potential past histories, some of them could
scary.
be dangerous. A haunted ship, the xenophile ship, where the ship's made of alien technology, wrested from the warp, wrested from a space hulk, where it's been refurbished from a mysterious wreck that we found in hyperspace. So I mean, they're interesting, but some of them are very scary. Whereas,
You know, as cool as the Ship of the Fleet one sounds and whatnot, it doesn't sound like it has very much of a downside. And since this is intended to be a short-term campaign, I say let's do random and see what we get.
how short term?
Well, I mean, he did say between 5 and 20 sessions. I mean, if we only go 5, then it's not. I kind of like the idea of randomizing it, because also the randomizing could influence our character builds.
Yeah. So we
Like
got
if we have someone who
votes.
hates aliens, then the Xenophilist would be really funny.
Would be interesting. So we got 2 votes for random. We got 1 for the Ship of the Fleet, 1 neutral. What do you think, Mike and Russ?
Oh man, I'm gonna go with random. I kind of like random, to be honest.
3 for random. Russ and Kyle. What do you guys? Or Kyle and Mike, excuse me.
Since my character idea was like ex-militant or military person, I think the Ship of the Fleet votes that would take my vote.
Okay.
Like
What do you-
formal.
What do you think, Mike?
I was wondering, like, what percentage would you say this game is going to revolve around ship combat?
Well, there's potential to have perhaps 5 space battles within our span. That would be my estimate. You guys could talk your way out of all of them, or you could get yourself into twice as many. But my estimate
So basically, possibly every session is what he's saying. Possible.
it's
or
possible, or it depends on how you guys play. It's a sandbox. You can go anywhere you want. You can do anything you want. I'm not a railroad style GM, or at least not in this campaign. So it's really up to you.
Well, how does everybody else feel? Like, I'm really not that interested in Starship combat, so, if everybody else is like, oh yeah, let's do like 80% ship combat, then I'm probably going to bow out, because that's not my game.
Yeah, I'm not that big on ship
I'm
combat.
playing a character, so like whatever
Yeah.
my character does is what my character does. If that's a lot of combat, that's a lot of combat. If it's a lot of commerce, it's a lot of commerce. It's just for me,
Well, but we can design your character in different ways. It sounds to me like with this crew, we'll try to talk our way out of combat as often as possible.
well, maybe
and-
it would be more interesting then to go with a lighter class. If you guys are not really interested in combat,
No,
it
no,
might
we
be
made
more-
a choice. Don't.
Oh.
We've already got our
don't
ship.
Go backwards. We'll
Alright.
be here for another half hour.
I'm interested in a good balance, to be honest. But
I want a strong ship, but never have to use it.
So we've got 2 for the naval ship, 3 for random, and 2 players without having cast a vote yet. Do one of you guys want to cast a vote?
I'll pop over
Otherwise, we're going random.
to naval. It's more popular. Just
Okay,
tip
we're
the odds.
We're tied now, so now it's all on you, Mike.
Let's do random.
yes,
All right.
Save our randomness.
Okay. I got my dice roller up on the screen.
Your
Roll.
faith in the God Emperor shall be rewarded.
So we're doing our
Roll
missing
destiny.
spirit first.
All right, before you guys do that, like,
Faith in the God Emperor is its own reward.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
very true.
That's right.
Preach it, brother.
so since I've never used this before, is it just dice stream?
Yep,
On the-
that's it.
Okay, like where do you
So-
see the rolls and everything?
It should be on my screen up here in the
You got
Oh.
an 8.
I saw
There.
it. I saw an 8.
somewhere around here.
What is an 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
So an
There's
8
really
is
ugly
There's
8.
little in the universe that can stagger this vessel. No matter the foe, it will advance slowly but surely. You get -1 speed, +3 hull, and +10 to all repair tests.
That's
That works.
right.
That sounds like us.
All right.
And now The
It's
past
past
history. Oh, the 9. Finances in arrears.
Uh-oh.
The ship was purchased with borrowed funds. The money
Ruh-roh.
could have come from criminals, nobles, or even the Inquisition. But no matter who it is, the debt must be repaid. Whenever we attempt to complete an endeavor, we must accumulate 50 additional achievement points. However, the ship's financier supports his investment by providing aid and information. All crew can count their financier as a reliable contact. Additionally, our creditor may require us to perform missions for him, which we
I like
may
that.
not refuse.
Cool.
I like this.
That fits the have a chance to bounce back story.
So who do you think this financier should
Clay
be?
Vanis. Clay Vanis. That's why I'm accountant.
The faction that you said gave his father the
trade warrant.
the trade warrant.
Yeah,
That faction, whoever they are, for whatever
Actually-
reason they gave it.
already had an idea for that.
What's your idea, Mike?
My character subtly organized the giving of the warrant of trade, and this is all building up to the innocuous death of like an important planetary governor, at least from my end. I don't know what you guys are all about, but like to remove an imperial governorship from an important sector world.
Yeah, I like.
Okay. So your who is your patron though?
Oh, Clay Venice, the info assassin people.
So basically the assassinorum.
Yeah, it's a wing of the Assassinorum. Yeah, it's the not sniper, not poisoners, not shapeshifters, not combat drug freaks. The what's the name of that guy? Like the Jacques Tati of assassins.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
okay, cool. Get
so
that
it
right.
sounds like it's basically it's part of the government that's responsible for assassinating their own citizens.
Yeah, the people suspected of heresy or lacking, or yeah, heresy is lacking faith in the guy.
So it sounds like Mike's idea is the Assassinorum has subtly helped your father and are using him as a tool of assassination. What do you think of that idea, Andrew?
Quick question.
I haven't
for
had
Andrew.
enough time to think about it to really have an opinion on it, to be
Okay.
honest.
Quick question for Andrew. How did your father die?
There were a
Maybe he was
couple.
assassinated.
Well, actually, that was one of my ideas. Is that it's not been confirmed, but there was a reactor breach on the ship, and under suspicious circumstances, the ship could have blown up.
So basically, with the history we've got is they gave it a mission and he said no, and he met a mysterious end. Gotcha.
It could be that, or it could also be the fact that they're tying up loose ends. So now that they got what they wanted out of him, they blew him up to basically keep him from talking.
Okay, well that sounds very intriguing to me. Unless anyone has a very strong objection, I think the Assassinorum.
He like started to be suspicious of it, right? So the Assassinorum wouldn't come up and say, "Oh, we're the Assassinorum. You're going to be our guinea pig." They'd like present a front as a legitimate company or something, and then maybe after a long enough time, he started to like see the wizard behind the curtain, and just that's when it was time for him to go.
All right, so what do you think this front would be? Do you think it'd be like one of the High Lords of Terra, or another rogue trader dynasty, or the Ecclesiarchy, or
Let's go with
what do
like
you think?
a major faction on a Ford world or something.
Or it could even be the Navy, because he's already got that Navy history.
Yeah, it could be a wing of the Navy for sure.
Yeah.
Sounds
That
good.
sounds
Dad
like we got
thought
a
he
lot
was
of military guys.
Since we
So
referred to
maybe
Star
like
Trek
an
earlier,
admiral.
your dad got it recruited by Section 31.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I was thinking it could also be like one of the admirals in the Navy, or a Commodore or something of that nature, secretly basically recruited him, posing as a faction within the Navy, who wanted certain interests done for said faction, including raiding,
Totally non-Navy
blowing
stuff.
up ships, doing various different tasks for them, which probably pissed off everyone, I'm sure.
And ostracized him from the actual Navy.
Yeah. Sure, and the Navy didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Maybe like,
So he actually
Inquisition,
got-
come here, and like all the requests of the Inquisition just like never get there.
So he got on the radar before he actually got, like, long before he got the Rogue Trader thing from him.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
The reputation he got was because he was already working for them.
That sounds good to me.
What did you say that the history was behind the vessel?
That's
We
the
have
finance.
Resolute and Finances in Arrears.
Resolute.
That's our machine
That's the
spirit oddity.
Resolute.
And the past history is Finances in Arrears, which you believe is owed to the Navy. This one branch of the Navy, one of the other fleets, maybe a neighboring fleet, but is actually a front for the Assassinorum, which none of your characters, excepting Mike, might know.
Mm-hmm.
So it
I might
sounds
not
like
even know that I'm working directly for the Assassinorum. I might be
Ah.
thinking that I'm working for a faction when actually I'm working for the Assassinorum.
That's true. So it sounds like we kind of have like a history for our dynasty. We know where our power level is, and we've got our ship. So I think that's a pretty good base for everybody to start thinking about who's your character, where does he fit in on this ship, and what are his motives behind this. So what are you guys thinking? Is there anything that you can share with the group? Of course, if it's a secret, don't feel obligated to share it.
Well, everybody will think that my name is Brad O'Gruffman, not actually Macarius, and he would generally be trying to increase the prestige and well-being of the dynasty until he receives orders to do something otherwise. And of course, acquire all knowledge possible.
Could you spell that for me?
Yes. Bradau. I'll just put it in the chat window. Okay.
And Mike, did you say you're playing as the Seneschal?
Yes.
Okay. So how would you have come onto the ship? Did you work for Andrew's father, or are you a new addition?
I would have come with the ship to Andrew's father as like the I don't know what he would have called me then.
We'll probably sell the Seneschal. I mean, you could just, that's just your job. You've been doing it before Andrew's dad got the ship. You saw him come, you saw him go, and now Andrew's here, and you're still just on the ship taking care of things.
It sounds good.
You're almost like a part of the ship. You're the ship's computer, almost.
Yes. Although I'll never make it look that way, but yes.
What is that? Ship's computer.
What would your actual role be on the ship, just out of curiosity?
The purser.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Do we have a
Alright.
name for the ship?
That's a good question. What do you guys think?
I did have some names, but I've forgotten them. Hamet. So,
Our machine spirit is Resolute. We could always just name the ship the Resolute.
God, that's fucking boring.
Yeah, that's weak.
Yes, it is.
Jeez.
So you guys better come up with a better name, or else I'll name it the Resolute.
How about the Dancing Blade? Dancing Blade? Anybody?
No,
We
it's
have
not, it
something
doesn't
to do with-
dance. It barely floats.
What was the problem our ship has? It has something to do with the
Leo
plasma
Manana.
things in overdrive or something like that?
No, we were gonna do that, but we
Oh,
ended
that's-
up, we ended up with Finances in Arrears, which probably means we were named by the Navy, named by the Assassinorum. But of course, the ship can be renamed.
Or the Iron Comet.
That's not bad.
I just looked up a ship name generator, looking at different ideas.
Well, and we don't have to name that right now either. I mean, we can do a poll or something in the first session event. You know, I'm a big fan of polls. You know that. So Micah, you said you were going to be the what's it called? The confessor, the ship's confessor, our religious council. So would your character have worked for Andrew's father, or are you new on the ship?
I am new. I like that. The Iron Bear. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
bears exist in this millennia, but whatever.
Hey, there's
Um,
On
falcons
one
and
of the
eagles
worlds they do.
everywhere.
I mean, by all means, some world has them.
um,
Whether they're common is a whole other matter.
Yeah. It's like an eagle or a pegasus or a unicorn. They're not real, but everybody knows about them.
It could
There
be
you
named
go.
after like the constellation, like it could be called the Ursa Major or something like that.
but
So Mike,
no, I am not part of the. I am a new addition to the ship's crew. I've served upon a rogue trader ship in the past, however, and that is why the priesthood designated me to serve as the missionary and confessor aboard this ship. Is because I had
Okay.
past rogue trader experience.
and now I did want there to be a rival rogue trader house. So have you come over from the rival house?
I have.
All right. And what's the story that everyone else would know? This might not be true, but do we think that you left them on friendly terms, or were you kicked out? Did you quit? What do we think happened?
I was a missionary on an imperial world, and I tried to proselytize somewhere where that wasn't appreciated, and I ended up getting press ganged into service aboard this rogue trader ship.
So you were press ganged onto their ship or onto our ship?
The rival trader ship.
Okay.
I spent
So
5 years aboard that ship doing the worst possible tasks imaginable. I
okay.
eventually managed to escape, and I was a low enough rank that the clergy really hadn't given a shit when I had disappeared. So,
You were preaching the true word. Somebody thought that's not the true word. That's heresy, and they threw you in prison. You ended up getting conscripted, press ganged onto this ship, and you said, "Hey, I'm preaching the true word. You've got to release me." And they said, "Fuck you. We're press ganging you. Can't you see how things work on this ship?" And so for 5 years, you were basically like scrubbing toilets, and you finally escaped, like you said. You were at a big starport, maybe, and you managed to get onto the starport. You found a friendly priest, and you said, "This is what happened to me, and I'm not a heretic, and all these fucks need to be punished." And he agreed with you, but he was unable to get the job done with punishing these fucks. But he did manage to get you in, and you've got some status and power now, some clout, and now you've taken up with Andrew here, because you don't have enough clout to get on a really nice ship, but you've ended up here, so you've got this planet that's heretical. They thought you were heretical, but you know it's them, so you've got to get even with them. And you've got the rival rogue trader, who, of course, they're kind of Andrew's natural enemy anyway, being his competition. So you
so
need
the
to
only
get even.
the only change I'd like to make to that is that I did not declare the rival group heretics. In fact, I came off that ship without holding a grudge, despite how illy I was treated. I told the priesthood that I had actually volunteered to preach to the people on board that ship. And since then, I've been gaining status and proselytizing on different planets, and then I pulled some strings to get myself assigned to a different rogue trader ship.
Okay,
For what
so
reason? I will have to PM that to you.
Yeah, so you started scrubbing toilets, but you're so learned and so charismatic, you ended up being like pretty high up. Like, not were you their confessor, or were you underneath their ship's confessor?
Well, I was legitimately press ganged into the ship. I was not. I lied essentially to the clergy, and told them that I was the confessor aboard this ship when I really wasn't.
Okay, so you were working as a priest, not the head priest, but you told everybody you're the head priest.
Kind of. Well, I was legitimately press ganged. Like I was scrubbing toilets during that time.
The whole time, or did you manage to get out of there by?
No, I only started to gain in rank once I had escaped, and once I had
Okay.
told this story to my explained this story to my to the clergy.
Okay, excellent. So that sounds good. So now, what is our relationship, our dynasty, with the clergy and the ecclesiarchy? Is it? It sounds like it's pretty rough. Does that sound correct to Micah and Andrew? That we're not.
What I was thinking of is basically like the clergy has an interest in having missionaries on board rogue trader ships. They want them. The rogue traders go into unknown sectors. That's where heresy grows, unfettered, and so they were very insistent that they have a member of their church on board your ship, Andrew. And so they kind of just strong-armed me on board.
Actually, that kind of ties in pretty well with my backstory.
Sure.
So I actually, so I'm playing an astropath, which means that I'm, soul bound to the Emperor. And I was actually born and raised on a temple ship, basically like coasting through the void, giving out the word of the Emperor and preaching and all that goodness. But our temple ship essentially was suffering from some pretty severe overpopulation. And 90% of the time, we just kind of like floated around and we're just sort of preaching with each other, like nothing actually really getting conveyed, nothing actually getting spread out to anyone else. It was kind of an excuse for just this nice, like rich, floating, opulent temple ship. But once we got overcrowded, I actually wound up being one of the people who got sent out to actually preach the word of the Emperor. Which, not that great. So I thought, okay, well, I can't give up my life of luxury and bliss, so I'll get aboard a rogue trader ship. They're always really nice, really well appointed, really rich, that sort of thing. I'll spread the word of the Emperor there, and I wound up on this hunk of junk.
Okay, so you're
So
also.
maybe we were sent together then.
Yeah, I was thinking that we could have been either tied in. We could either be very like indistinguishably different sects of the faith of the Emperor, or we could be like tied really closely together and be from like a similar order. And I'm sort of sent there to like one of us is sent to help the other, sort of thing.
Or keep an eye on the other.
Yeah, or keep an eye on the other.
Okay.
If one of you has been sent, though, or is on the crew as the navigator, then obviously that's the one that the crew hired, and the other one's to tag along. If we have the bad relationship with the ecclesiarch.
Yeah, as the astropath.
He's like the communicator.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the navigator.
I'm the radio.
Yeah, only astropaths can speak in real time, or pretty close to real time, across the distance of space.
Okay.
So that's what he provides. Is we can talk to any other astropath in the sector. He can talk to them. So we'll give him a message. He'll give them the message. They'll give it to whoever it's supposed to get to. And in theory, he's he'll never distort the message. He can be trusted with all the secrets. In theory, that's the way it works.
I'm thinking I was probably hired onto the ship, but then Micah is the one who actually knows a lot more about the religion than I do. Because growing up on the temple ship, it just kind of like becomes background noise, and nobody's actually all that faithful. So Micah's the actual faith, whereas I'm more of like the practical side of it.
How did you get overpopulated with all those vows of celibacy? How did that happen?
That's one of those things where the rules of the Emperor are a little different in different sections of space, you see.
Okay.
What page was the list of the jobs on the on the ship? That's into the storm, right?
Second. Yep. It's near the end.
I think we've got a list of jobs in the actual chat log, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it has more detail in the book.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
it'll
there
have
it
a
is.
lot more.
Well, I was mostly looking at like the career preferences or restrictions for some of the choices.
Mhm.
It's advisory. I wouldn't put it as. I think they're trying to do it for dummies, to be honest. They're trying to be like, hey, no, you can't be the engine seer when you're the chaplain. That's not how it works.
Yeah. So what are you thinking? We still need Russ, Kyle, and Josh. We still need some characters from you, and of course you do have a whole week to think about it. You don't have to make any decision right now. But this is just as a group, so we can throw some ideas around.
Was someone in the group was saying they want to do a military type. Are they do you have your eye on Master at Arms or Master of Ordnance or something else?
Yeah, I think Master Arms, Master Ordnance, and probably my character. Well, if we're going with a former Navy vessel, my character will probably
It's not a former
have
Navy
so.
vessel. We didn't go with that.
I know.
So
Go ahead, Kyle. What were you thinking? The gunnery chief or like a space marine sergeant? Although that we can't call them space marines because they have their own space marines that aren't really space marines, but security chief or the gunner or a fighter pilot, or what do you think?
Anyone really.
I think he should be a space marine. In fact, I posit that he should be like a space wolf. I think that would be an excellent addition to the party.
Well, but by space marine, I mean someone who would fulfill the
Yeah,
role
no, you
of
mean
a
like a
marine
space commando.
in space.
Yeah.
But they've given that name to something that doesn't do that. So, and a lot of the naming in Warhammer is very interesting, but that one's especially confusing.
Yeah, well, I'd like to be, well, my idea is that I was a former Navy commander, and maybe not quite a captain, but
So you
very versed in battlefield strategy.
So you're thinking more of like you were more of like a ship, like a lieutenant, like you were a bridge officer dealing with either the guns or
so
something
Master
like
of Ordnance
helmsman.
then, or the fighters, something like that, because he's describing a naval officer as opposed to a ground pounder.
Well, let me ask Kyle, if combat breaks out, where is your character? Are you on the bridge firing weapons and giving firing patterns? Or are you on a ship flying over there to kick in the airlock and start shotgunning people in the hallway? Or are you flying a void fighter trying to drop a torpedo down their thrusters? Where do you think your character would be when stuff starts getting rough?
I'd probably be on the bridge as a secondary commander, captain. I'd be my character would be more versed in battlefield tactics, ship movements, counterattacks, and thinking maneuvers, stuff like that.
All right, so it sounds like the Master of Ordnance, giving the firing patterns, handling the big guns, and giving
gun crew, stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think, does that just leave Russ? I think.
Me as well, but.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at a couple of different ones that I kind of like, and I was letting him fill in because one of the ideas I've got would possibly conflict there. So.
Okay. Yeah, I can go. Well, I'm actually just literally coming up with this on the fly, to be honest. So, what I was thinking was, if this is still a thing, is to actually be to have been part of his father's crew on his father's ship. Mm-hmm. What was it, Lucius? And to have taken extensive part in the whole, piratical actions. Seems really cool to me. So I'm trying to think of a character that would have been very, I don't know, beneficial to the pirate side of things.
Border. We need borders.
The
Someone's got to go
Master
over
of
there.
Arms, the Master Helmsman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly,
that too.
The
honestly,
repair
what David was saying about going over in like a void fighter and either that. Well, you said border, so either one
it's-
is like very attractive actually. So I was thinking, you go over in a ship, you say, and the idea is to bust down an airlock, go inside, and like literally start, taking out their crew. That sounds pretty amazing to me, so I think I'll go with that. The only issue for me is, what class am I looking for that? Like a arch militant?
The Master at Arms is responsible for boarding and repelling boarding, which sounds like what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's a
that should be-
Voidsman. The class is
either-
Voidsman, I think.
It's either Arch Militant or Void Master,
Yeah.
according to the book.
Well,
Either one.
the arch militant is good at fighting directly. The voidsman is better at aiming the guns and flying the ships. But the arch militant is the man who you want to be if you want to be a badass.
Oh yeah.
Beat people down, shotgun them, fight your way to the engine room, set a bomb, and then get out of dodge. That is the arch militant.
Okay, so that's me. I'm the arch militant, and then what was the actual role? It was the
Master at Arms.
Master of Arms. Okay.
It also lists important skills for that spec, so in case you want to know, Command, Tech Use, Intimidate, and Scholastic Lore, Tactica Imperialis, tactics basically, are the important skills for the Master at Arms.
What book are you actually looking at for that core? Or
It's in the End of the Storm, page 226 has the Master at Arms.
okay, yeah, I actually don't have that one right now.
The link I put in the group chat has all these books.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take a look at it.
mine is
for sure.
loading.
Yeah, it takes a while to load them, but I mean,
Yeah.
That does bring up a good question. Now that we're all getting tighter in our ideas, do we want to use the book and go through the what's it called, the career path, and then the origin path, and then a career, basically a class, which is basically just a list of skills and talents, or do we want to do it free form and say you can take any skill, any talent, just pay 100 XP for each. So do we want the
prefer the
structure
classes.
or the free form?
Yeah, I think the classes are probably a little bit better, especially because we mostly have some newer players.
Well, I think it's better not to have to use a class. I think it's easier for new players, personally, because you just write your character and then just stat them. You don't have to fit the character you've written into this horrible box and just jam them and gouge the eyes to fit them in.
well, I mean, if we've already figured out like what role people are playing on the ship, and they're nice enough to tell us, okay, these roles are one of these couple of classes. It's not difficult to make your character fit at that point.
Well, we got two for classes. What do the rest of y'all think?
So I've already gone through the origin path and like picked out what exactly I want going
Yeah.
down. I have my character pretty well planned out, so I'm going to go
Good.
origin path.
We got three for classes. Anybody else in favor of classes? And then we'll have a majority.
Well, I'll do fine with Ocean Path as long as we use the special rule where you can dig any underline that this was adjacent to the one below what you picked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a majority. So despite what I or perhaps Andrew might think, we're going to use the classes then.
What was that rule that you were just talking about, Kyle? I thought that was just a standard way that the origin path worked. Was
Yes, that is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we've got that. We've got our ship.
So question. So I have to go down and pick adjacent. They have to be adjacent.
No,
I
you
can't,
can
like,
either go.
free form pick them.
So,
Straight down, to the left,
you can't go
to the right.
free form. So basically, pick your origin world and then pick your class at the bottom. You've got to connect them with a solid line. So either straight or just zigzag, but only one off in any direction each time.
What page are you referring to with this? Because I'm
The
lost.
origin path is on
16, I think, on the core book.
16. Yes, sir. So
Okay,
yeah, it
can we
looks
use
like,
the expanded origin path tree from the End of the
that-
Storm?
Yes, absolutely. So that's what it looks like. So you can basically, if you want to start like up here, where is it? You want to start here, you can go down, or you can go, excuse me, off to this guy. Well, you cannot go to this guy, he's too far. You have to stay within the 2 of whichever one you're at.
Okay, so a couple things about that. So the background that I just gave you may change that. I'm unfortunately I'm going to have to create a stat first, and then the background. That's just the
why
way
I
it's.
don't. I know.
It's
That's why I
just the
don't
way
like
I'm going to
it.
have to do it. But
But if you guys want, we've been outvoted, Andrew. We have to make
fine.
a.
That's fine.
Well,
I'm just
actually,
letting you know.
Hold on, because I'm looking at this chart now because I didn't look at it before.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Like looking at what my path would be, I'd have to go from Voidborn to like Child of the Creed, but that's too far. Though actually, I might change my vote because I wouldn't be able to make my character either.
Well, we don't have to like be completely totalitarian about it. We can have some flexibility.
Okay, I don't guess I
So, like-
understood. I mean, like,
Well,
okay,
it's-
so rules as written, you start at the top with your world,
Mhm.
and you can
You
only
can
go
go-
on the
you can
second
go
row.
on
You
the
can only
top.
go to something that is adjacent. So,
Yeah, you
like,
can go straight down. Or
like if I
one
wanted to
step
be
the
noble
left
born,
or
I
right.
can go to Solvent or Vaunted. I can't be Child of the Creed.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Exactly. Hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then when
maybe
you
Voidborn
finally
would be
get
able
to your class, you have to be restricted. So if you're an explorator, you cannot learn dodge until your second rank. So if you want to be a very nimble explorator, fuck you. You can't do that because it's not in the class build. But if you guys want to use classes, then
Well, I'm not familiar enough with the world to want to do a freeform. So I want to
Okay.
build with classes, just because. But I don't want to necessarily limit someone else because I don't want to make something that's completely out of whack with the world.
Oh, I'm already
Could
like
could
right
we
on
at
there.
least do it this way? Is it possible that instead of like we have to go straight down using adjacency only for the origin path, could we at least like basically choose which ones we
I like
want from
that.
any given? Other than that, I can live with classes. It's just it's going to be very difficult for me to like especially Rogue Trader. Rogue Trader is stuck right at the end of
Mhm.
the career path, like jammed in a corner. So like it would be
Yeah.
more challenging for me to freely kind of pick what I was kind of going for.
I'm okay with
idea.
that. Like, that's kind of what I mean by being more flexible with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
fine
so
by me.
Okay.
So that would mean that, like, if I wanted to choose, like, Nobleborn, I could then just go to, I wouldn't do it, but, Scavenger and then Permanent or whatever, ones I wanted to choose. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's actually
Yeah.
what I prefer.
I would personally rather have the freedom. I mean, you said we'd have like 4 or 5 days before session 1 to kind of,
Oh yeah.
think tank it. So and one of the biggest reasons I'm doing my character on the fly right now is that I tried to make 2 or 3 different characters with this origin path deal, and always ran into something that was like, I don't want that. I don't want to do that. So I'm definitely for the freedom aspect.
Okay.
Okay.
So that sounds like a majority. So it sounds like we want classes, we want the origin, but we want the flexible origin.
Yeah.
One from each line, and they don't
So we
have
could be more eccentric characters, but still within the paths that are typical in the universe. Gotcha.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't understand class-based systems very well myself, but that's fine.
Well, I just
Well, that's a whole nother discussion.
okay. So like I hadn't yet said what role I wanted on the ship. And so I've got an idea,
Okay.
and y'all can shoot this down if you want. I don't care. I'll make something else up because I've got too many ideas. But I actually want to throw in my hat for the first officer position.
Sure.
And I'm looking at the child of a dynasty. And basically what my thought is that the rogue trader license that your father was that the captain's father was given, should have been mine. But that I'm going to end up taking something like criminal or something like that along the way to where my father, who was apparently in the Assassinatorium or was being controlled by them, did not think I was fit for the command. And so that's why he targeted your father to pass it on to.
Well, what about if you're like Andrew's bastard half brother, or maybe his maybe you're his legit older brother, but your father recognized him as the heir and he skipped you. You know, that might be more interesting because then you got
actually.
your
Yeah, I'll do that.
Rivalry.
What do
I'll
you
do
think,
that.
Andrew?
An actual straight up sibling rivalry rather than Okay.
So you're an older brother?
An older sibling, brother or sister, either one. I haven't
Okay,
decided yet.
sure.
You want to be full-blooded or a half brother?
I'll do full.
Right.
So and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna start with Child of Dynasty. Basically, I should have been the heir, but something along the way, whether I'm incompetent or didn't wind up as a rogue trader.
Well, your dad might have just thought you're too old. I don't want this 40-year-old person being the
How old are you
my
going?
heir.
Because that will matter. If you choose 28, then I can't go 26 if I'm going to be the older brother.
That's hard to say at this moment.
And you guys can all PM each other and get things set up as well. Because we're going to be doing like session 1 probably next week. It'll have to be next week because I'm booked up for the rest of this week. So yeah, you could all PM each other, get things set up, do some scheming. We could even, we'll have the event set up so we could all talk to each other. This was it's the quickest way is to do it on video, but we got a whole week to talk and think about things.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't give you more real information about my character at the moment. I don't tend, when it comes to like characters, I don't like coming up with a lot of stuff on the fly. I tend to spend a lot of time thinking about kind of what I'm going to go with. But no, I do like the idea of having an older sibling who has been passed over for inheritance. It should make things very interesting.
And
we'll
definitely going to work in that there is a reason why. It wasn't just like Dad was crazy.
Yeah. I'm friending everyone who's here. I'm going to send you a friend request. Feel free to send me messages on Facebook. That's usually the best way that I have of keeping in contact with people.
Another great angle is your father has just passed away. So maybe Andrew's sad because he liked his dad. And you're like pissed off, like how dare the old man die before I could make peace with him, or maybe you're like, good, I'm glad he's dead, fuck him, and that could, or maybe you're both sad, but that could affect your relationship with each other. If you're both sad, you could become tighter together. If you both hate him, you could be closer together. But if it's a split, then
one thing I'm already thinking about with my character is. He may think he should have gotten the traitor license, like the captaincy, but he doesn't want to question the captain in front of anyone because then even if he gets it, it sets a bad precedent and he'll have to worry about mutiny himself. So it's like any mutinous ideas are going to be quashed by him even before it even makes it to the captain's ears.
Yeah, and I mean some things you might not even want to say even at the officers' mess because. Maybe you can't trust, Greg the astropath over here. Or
How
maybe,
dare you?
To be fair, I wouldn't either, so,
Yeah. Well, hey, DTA, don't trust anybody, man.
Just because I can read your mind doesn't mean you shouldn't trust me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds like everybody's got like a little seed of a character. We've got our ship, we've got our dynasty. I think the easiest thing for scheduling might be if everyone maybe posts in the event when you're available, which day is best for you, or which day is impossible for you, and we'll do it based on we'll do it via text in the event. Does that sound like the easiest way?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's always where these things fall apart, isn't it?
Starting
no.
characteristics, it's 2 die 10 plus 20 or something like that. How do you want to handle that? Do you want us to roll that before we leave, or?
No, I trust everybody to roll their own dice. If I don't trust you, I don't want to game with you at all. So
Oh,
I trust you.
We're going to be rolling stats.
Is there a point by that?
There's an allocating stats
Yeah, personally,
optional rule, but it's up, you know.
Oh,
yeah, personally,
I didn't
like,
see it whenever I was reading through the first time. So.
Yeah, it's
I like point buy better because it gives you more control.
Yeah.
But
too.
I know some people like to roll for them because it gives them that inspiration. So I'm perfectly fine with the mix.
Yeah, if
I might roll for
already
it
have
just
calc-
because it might guide me to why I was passed over.
I'm gonna go point buy, I think.
Yeah, me too. If we already have Kyoto concepts, point by, we'll point by, or we roll and then assign each number.
I did have a question about one stat thing.
Yep.
I get an heirloom item for some reason or another. I
Okay.
don't know. Chosen by destiny or pride or something. Oh, pride, my motivation. I have no interest in any of these things.
Well,
Can I have a, what is it? A good quality cortex implant set.
Sure.
You inherited a cortex implant?
Well, I mean, it was the heirloom item that I got from Clade Vanis way back in the day.
Yeah.
Jesus.
What was that one from? Pride?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as far as equipment goes, anything of average quality or lesser scarcity, just take that for free. Anything that's more rare, as the book says, just make a test. What's it called? Consignment?
Acquisition?
Acquisition, maybe.
Think?
Make a test. It's in the book. It's under equipment. Make a test for anything more rare than average. And if you fail, then you couldn't find it to buy it. If you've succeeded in your, I believe it's acquisition.
Neat.
But if you've succeeded, then it was available, and because you're opulent and wealthy, you purchased it. So just make a list of your gear, go down the list, roll your test, see if you found it or not. Pay attention because the rarity of the item gives it a modifier to that test. And that's all in the equipment section right in the core book. Now, how do we want to handle the ship points? It's the only other thing I can think of. We got, what is it, 18 ship points remaining.
I'd say we need to wait on that because some of these different paths and whatnot add or subtract to the ship and profit.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So we probably need to wait till people have finalized their builds so we probably need a thread on the event where you've got our base and then like each person chimes in as to what their build altered it
Same
by.
with profit factor.
Yeah,
too.
I would say that it's probably best if everyone, once you've kind of figured out what class you're running, then just say what origin, like just state, exactly which origins you're choosing, and that will probably, then we'll all kind of have an idea of, and that way it also helps connect us too, because if anyone shares any origin, it might help with story as well. So.
Absolutely.
Works for me.
So I think that's everything. So go through your character, think about his history, his goals, where he wants to go in the future, his appearance, his personality, all that good stuff. How did he get on the ship? How does he get along with his faction, whether that's the ecclesiarchy, the astropaths? How does he get along with other factions? And if you have anything from your history or any fun ideas for adventures to go on, shoot those over to me. Like, if, for example, if Andrew said, "Hey, our rogue trader rivals, what if they're like basically drug dealers and they're like big pharma and they're hooking everybody up with friends on and getting them all jacked up and that's who they are and I don't do drugs so I hate them." Then as a GM, it helps with my world building. The world gets deeper. You'll like the setting more because you've had a hand in building it. So feel free to send me anything like that, or not. If you don't care about that kind of stuff, don't feel obligated. Your commitment is as much as you want it to be. So there's no homework. There's just whatever you feel is fun. Do that.
I do have a few questions.
Yeah.
One of them being, have we scrapped the whole everybody contributes a free component or upgrade because we're using the point system because we're using the point system now?
I was thinking so because we are using the point system. My initial thought was to have a very generic ship and everybody contributes one piece of it. But Andrew pointed out the ship point system, which is a fun little system, and the profit factor, which can come into play more than I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should stick to the ship points personally.
Yep,
okay.
I agree with that.
So do you want to build the ship then, based on like?
We've got to get the points. We've got to get the points.
Well, right,
first.
but yeah. But once we're done with that, do you want to be the one in charge of kind of choosing that, or did you want it to be by committee again?
Well, once we've got our pool, and we can do this via text, or we can do another meetup. But once we've got our pool of points to work with, and we've all read up on the rules a little bit more, we can make the ship together, certainly.
Okay. My other question was, are you just going to throw up like another group or another event thread so we can all collaborate there, or just private message? Or
for right now, certainly you can collaborate in this event. The event won't disappear just because it's over. So
Okay.
you can keep posting in here, especially for the schedule. And as soon as we have a schedule for session 1, I'll make a new event for that as soon as I know when it is. And of course, yeah, we can certainly all PM as we want.
Sounds
okay.
good.
Sounds good.
Okay, was there anything else that we needed to cover before we call it a night?
I think that's everything.
Good.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Okay, so it sounds like we have like 2 rogue traders, a very religious astropath, and of course the most religious confessor. We've got our sneaky seneschal and the master of the void cannon. So we've got lots of peeps to work with. We've got our space marine. Looks like a very fun little crew, and I look forward to your plot hooks that you give me. As I said, will be a nice little sandbox. You can decide where we're going, what we're doing, and I'm really looking forward to session 1.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, sounds good.
Actually, before we sign off, because we didn't plug our shit before we started broadcasting, so does anybody want to plug anything to our viewers? Because this is going apparently on YouTube. So, Greg, plug your book, Greg.
All right. Well, I do have a little book. It's called the Flavor Handbook. It's a Pathfinder supplement, which I know not everybody's into Pathfinder, but if you are, it's called the Flavor Handbook. It's by Duck and Roll Games, and it's all about adding food and eating and flavor and actual descriptive flavor into a Pathfinder game. So it's out now. You can get it on the Pathfinder SRD or Drive-Thru-RPG. And yeah, it's gotten pretty good reviews so far. Worked pretty hard on it. I'll throw a link in the chat if you guys want to take a look at it. Yeah, take a look if you like.
All right. Who else has shit to plug?
I have a Pathfinder campaign setting called Varanthia Codex. You can get free PDFs for it at varanthiacodex.com, and then there's like a 400-page core book. Then I also have Hypercore 2099, which also has free stuff at hypercore.com. That's HYPERCORPS. That is for both Pathfinder and 5e D&D. And then my latest campaign setting, which should be coming out at the end of this month, is called Mists of Akuma. It is Eastern Fantasy Noir Steampunk for D&D 5e. And I have other stuff you can get, but those are the three big ones.
All right. Anybody else with a plug, a YouTube channel, anything?
Technically, I have a YouTube channel, but no one cares about it. So let's move on.
Well, what's the name of your channel, Andrew?
It's Andrew Van Roy. Real easy.
Andrew Van
Just my
Roy.
name.
Okay.
So.
I don't think I've ever gone on your channel.
Yes, you have. You
Have
commented on one of my videos.
Okay.
You just don't remember because your memory is terrible.
That's true. But I've taken extensive notes for this, so I have all my notes. I'm not relying on my memory to run the campaign.
Thank God.
So I think we can say goodnight. As I said, make sure you let me know which day works best for you or which day doesn't, and we'll, as soon as we've got any kind of consensus, I'll get a new event for session 1 posted up, and also, yeah, talk to each other, talk to me. But it sounds like it's going to be a very fun little campaign.
Sounds good.
Before we sign off, one last thing about the timing, the date. So I'm just finishing up this term in school. Like next week is my last week. I will not be able to game Tuesday or Thursday, but any other time is open for me.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
All right,
Bye, guys.
All right. Scheduling stuff in the meeting and the group chat on Facebook. Yeah, it sounds good.
All right. So thank you all for showing up. I'll probably sign out now and figure out what to do with the next 2 hours. Maybe I'll run an impromptu game. Probably not, but maybe.
All right. Catch you later.
All right. Later, guys.
All right, see ya.
Bye-bye.
Take care.